People are saying that grinding flares is the best method to get Kuudra Keys. In this video, I'll put that theory to the test by comparing all of the Kuudra Keys obtaining methods and give my honest opinion on all of them. I will not only judge the efficiency, but also things like how hard is it to set up, how chill the method is, and of course, what other benefits the method gives. But before we start, please consider subscribing because only 5% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed and I'm going for 10k till the end of June. Now, back to the video you came here to watch. Method 1. Killing boss. As you probably know, there are 3 different bosses: Blaze Soul, Mage Outlaw, and Barbarian Duke. Well, technically there are 5 if you count Magma Boss and Ash one, but no one does them anyway. These 3 bosses have a ton of HP, which means that you will have to have a Hyperion to do this method efficiently. However, if you're feeling lucky, you can buy an Aurora staff for just 1.5 million coins and try to find a lobby where someone is already doing boss cycles. Then you just follow their cycle and deal 1 million damage to qualify for the drop. On average, you will kill 70 bosses every hour, which should get you rates of 7 to 8 Kuudra Keys per hour. Sadly, there is a big downside to this method, which is the fact that the keys you get are only for tier 1 and tier 2 of Kuudra. However, the keys are not the only item you get. Every hour and a half you will get a Gauntlet of Contagion, which starts at 12 million coins and can be worth up to 300 million coins if you get mana pool and mana regen on it. But to even have a chance of obtaining that god roll, you need to complete tier 3 Kuudra first. And if you are struggling with that, I have a video going in depth on Kuudra carries, which you should totally check out next. On top of the previously mentioned Gauntlet of Contagion, you also have a chance to drop Magma Urchins, which are worth 4 million coins at the time of recording this video. Also, if you're in need of combat XP, this method got your back. For the first few hours, you will get a crazy amount of bestiary milestones, giving you millions of combat XP. Overall, I would rate this method a 5 out of 5 in how hard the method is to set up, since it doesn't require any prior setting up. A 5 out of 5 on a chillness scale, but it only gets a 3 out of 5 in efficiency, since the keys you get are only for tier 1 and tier 2, and you will only get around 8 keys per hour, which is not much compared to the next methods. Lastly, it gets a 5 out of 5 in coins per hour because 10 to 15 million coins an hour with a possibility of getting 300 million Gauntlet of Contagion is very nice. Method 2. Vanquisher Party. Vanquisher is a mob that has a base spawn chance of 1 in 640. However, you can make it higher by buying a Wither Piper perk, using a Kuudra pet, or reaching Enderman Slayer 9. The Vanquisher you spawned will drop 3 nether stars, and the one you leashed will usually reward you with 1, but you have a slight chance to drop 2. So now, how do you set up this method, you ask? It is really simple. There are 5 locations you can choose from: Stronghold, Burning Desert, Magma Fields, Mystic Marsh, and a volcano, each one having different mobs and benefits to it. To set up this method, you need to make a party where each person kills mobs in different locations in order to spawn as many vanquishers as possible. This method is more challenging to set up than the previous one and also requires a Hyperion, but the rewards are well worth the effort. Once you have set up the party, which takes about 30 minutes, you can earn up to 20 million coins per hour by grinding in the Burning Desert, Magma Fields, or Mystic Marsh. You might be wondering, what do you mean 20 million coins per hour, Puskowa? Well, let me explain. If you grind in the desert, you will get burning eyes that you can use to craft snail pets. If you get an epic from crafting, you should upgrade it to legendary at CAD, because that way you make more money. In addition to burning eyes, you will also get magma chunks from pigments as well as magmas in magma fields. Magma chunks are used to make magma necklaces, but to get god rolls and achieve that 20 million per hour raise, you'll need to complete tier 3 Kuudra first to unlock the god rolls chance. Here is the list of all the prices you can get for different magma necklaces at the time of recording this video. Moving on to the Mystic Marsh. Killing the red cows there will drop digested mushrooms that you can use to craft mushroom cow pets. And just like with the snail pets, make sure to upgrade them to legendary before selling. Fun fact, at the beginning of the garden update there was a huge demand for mushroom cows, and grinding them was making upwards of 50 million coins per hour in itself. Now let's talk about the most important part, which is how many Kuudra Keys per hour can you get. When I tested this method myself, I managed to get 58 stars in 2 hours hours, which meant my rates were 14.5 keys per hour. However, a more realistic estimate would be 10 to 11 keys per hour. And now for the cherry on top of this method, combat XP. Killing the mobs alone should get you at least 1 million combat XP per hour, and on top of that you will also make progress in your bestiary milestones for nether mobs, giving you even more combat XP. Overall, I would rate this method a 4 out of 5 in chillness because sometimes people like to steal your mobs, a 2 out of 5 in how hard the method is to set up. Nextly, a 5 out of 5 in efficiency since you should get at least 10 keys per hour, and a 5 out of 5 in money per hour because 20 million an hour is almost as good as mining. Method 3. Flares. It is super easy to figure out how this method works. You basically jump into the volcano and kill the flares going in circles. According to the community, this method is considered to be the best, but also the sweatiest and most difficult to master. It requires an expensive setup costing around 4 billion coins, which consists of a Hyperion, Burning Aurora armor and at least 1000 magical power. Not to even mention that you will need a high level of combat too. On top of all that, it also takes a lot of time to learn how to survive. Before I started my 2-hour test, I spent 20 minutes learning how to not die myself, and even after that practice run, I would still die every about 15 minutes, which was super annoying. Despite the difficulty, solo players can earn around 9 keys per hour, which makes this the best solo method available. However, there is one more thing to this method that I haven't mentioned yet. When you grind flares, you should search for a Vanquisher party, literally combining method 2 and 3 into 1. That way your rates should skyrocket up to 14 to 15 keys per hour. Unfortunately, flares also have some downsides that you have to consider before deciding to grind them. Firstly, random people will often come to your lobbies and try to steal your flares, making this method extremely frustrating. And secondly, unlike other methods, grinding flares will not generate any coins, as casing pearls are almost worthless. In fact, this makes flares the worst method for earning coins compared to every other method on this list. As for the rating, I would rate this method a 1 out of 5 in chillness because it is the only method I wanted to stop doing after just 45 minutes. Nextly, a 5 out of 5 in how hard the method is to set up if done alone, and a 2 out of 5 if done in a Vanquisher party. On top of that, I would rate it a 5 out of 5 in efficiency and a 2 out of 5 in money per hour because on a good day you might make like 4 million an hour max with this method. And last but not least, the method you've been waiting for. The mysterious special method that makes a lot of keys, like best method existing. Method 4. Lava fishing.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
I bet you didn't expect to see fishing here, but you do, so please stay with me as I explain how fishing can get you more keys per hour than any other method. First, let's start with the basics. The setup you will need to even try this method is Fishing 50, Magma Lord armor, Mythic flying fish, and of course a Hellfire rod with double hook and fishing speed. Also, if you consider yourself a crazy person, you can rod swap with Giant's rod. Now, on top of that, it would be useful to have Gill Splash equipment and a Hyperion or a Midas staff. If you use this setup by yourself, you will get rates of 6 to 7 keys and 15 million coins per hour. But wait, that's not even close to the best method. Like, isn't even killing bosses better than fishing? Well, you see my friend, now we move on to the sweaty stuff. From listening to this part alone, you will forget that grass even exists. In fact, this method is so insane that you could probably crash a server if the sea creature limit didn't exist. So now, how do you get rates of 20 to 50 keys per hour? Well, it's very simple. You just buy that maxed out setup I explained before, and then find 10 more people who are crazy enough to buy it as well. Then, what you need to do is get all of these 10 people in one party and take over one of these two locations. This one or this one. If you somehow achieve that, then the rest is actually easy. All you need to do is split the party into 9 plus 1. 9 people who will fish for sea creatures and 1 person who will kill all of them. Before the recent update, the person who was killing the sea creatures would get 20 to 30 million fishing XP per hour, which means that the entire party could max out 4 to 5 legendary squids every hour. But since that got patched, this method only makes about 10 million an hour from RNG drops. But if you're crazy enough to consider doing this method, you don't care about money, you want the keys. So let's go back to the explanation. Well, to make it possible for everyone to leech the spawn Vanquisher, the person who kills the sea creatures will have to place a totem of corruption on every Vanquisher spawn and wait for everyone to come down to hit the Vanquisher. Now for the craziest part. The person who kills all of the sea creatures should spawn around 30 Vanquishers an hour, which means that all of the 9 people who are fishing will get raids of 15 Kuudra Keys per hour. But the one who is chosen to kill the sea creatures will get raids of 45 to 50 Kuudra Keys per hour. Yes, you've heard that right. 45 to 50 Kuudra Keys per hour. And now, assuming that all 10 of you are good friends, you should swap the person who is killing the sea creatures every hour. If you do that, the average amount of keys you will get per hour should be around 20 to 25 keys per hour, making this method the best out of all existing. This method is so insane and so hard to set up that I can't even properly test it, so I hope you can trust me on that. All I can say now is use that information at your own risk, because I would not be surprised if that method could actually crash lobbies.